Hi, and welcome back to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Chris Gorski.
Today is March 16th. We're on page 45 in your magazines, and today we're going to hear part 2 of the 2-part article that we started yesterday entitled, A Good Look at Glass Structures. We're discussing glass buildings or glass used to a great extent in buildings. Do they all look alike and are they all boring? No, there are some really unique buildings made of glass. Yesterday, we talked about the pyramid, the glass pyramid at the Louvre. We also talked about the Gherkin in London. Those are 2 very unusual glass structures, and we're going to talk to you about some more of them today.
So the second big invention, and the first being the elevator that I discussed yesterday, that allowed the invention of the skyscraper to really take hold in first the United States, especially in New York, and then worldwide, especially in Asia in the 80s and 90s, of course, was steel. And steel obviously is that metal beam that they're used to kind of build, and then you just kind of hang the glass off it. But when steel was first invented, it wasn't the Bessemer process where you're blowing all the air into the steel and cleaning out the impurities. There was actually a method where you used a lot of coal. But this was so energy intensive. It was so expensive that actually only the tiniest things could be made out of steel. And in fact, when this process was invented, it was more expensive to make steel forks and knives than to make them out of gold.
Oh, boy. I'm speechless. Shocking. Okay, let's continue with our article. The amazing Louvre entrance and London's Gherkin are incredible designs. Let's look at some other interesting glass structures around the world. Selgas Cano's incredible office. In the woods near Madrid, Spain, architectural firm Selgas Cano created a one-of-a-kind office space that looks like a long tube. The building's north side has a transparent wall that curves upward to form half of the ceiling. The other half of the roof and side of the building facing south is made from different material in a green color, offering some shade from the sun. Half of the building is underground, with the bottom part made of brick. This offers good insulation, which means no air conditioning is needed. The top half offers employees wonderful views because they basically have one long window to look out at nature.
Next, we have the IT house. In contrast to the forest surroundings of Selgas Cano's office, the IT house is a largely glass structure built in the middle of a desert in California. The unusual home was built by couple Linda Tallman and Alan Koch, who both work for the same architectural company, along with some help from their friends. For power, the couple relies on solar panels on top of the home.
Willis Tower glass platforms. The Willis Tower in Chicago, Illinois, known as the Sears Tower until 2009, is the 23rd tallest building in the world, and it contains a lot of windows. But the most remarkable parts of the building are the 4 glass platforms that hang more than 400 meters up in the air outside the structure. People who enter the glass boxes can get a fantastic view of America's 3rd largest city. And that's where it ends.
That's where it ends, and then we have some questions after that. Now, before we jump back in, we talked about kind of some of those fundamental factors in building a skyscraper. Of course, the elevator. Then we talked about steel. And the third one is a good platform, a good basis to build your structure. Before we had modern technology, pretty much until about 1900, the only way you can build a really, really tall building is a big, fat bottom. Probably the best known example modern days is the Empire State Building, which is made of a lot of brick. It's extremely thick walls at the bottom, and it narrows out at the top, but that's kind of a visual trick. This is exact same technology used to build the pyramids. It did not change for thousands of years. You have a fat base to carry everything up top.
That is really interesting.
It's really incredible to think, to me, that the pyramids, the people that built the pyramids figured out this is probably the only way to build something so big, and hence the reason why the pyramids are the shape that they are and how big they are.
I would never have made a connection between the pyramids and the Empire State Building.
There you go.
There we go. Let's go back to the beginning. Our title again, A Good Look at Glass Structures. Okay, so the title we've already talked about. We talked about it yesterday. And we have a little short introductory paragraph in today's part of the article. The amazing Louvre entrance and London's Gherkin are incredible designs.
Thumbs down and thumbs up.
I don't have strong feelings either way. Of the two, I prefer the Louvre entrance. I just am not crazy about that London Gherkin.
It's extremely unique. If you want something to fit in with the rest of your skyline, the Gherkin is not for you. If you want to stand out, well, there you go.
Well, see, that's it. For me, it struck me as you are just being different in order to be different. I mean, it was very clever. It's, a sort of nice design, and you've got that kind of spiral shape going around it. But it looks like they were just trying too hard to be different.
It's a very flashy building. Imagine a person that has a lot of chains or maybe a lot of jewelry. They dress in a very flamboyant fashion. It works for some people. It's not something I personally could pull off. But I appreciate the guy that can wear a silk purple suit. I appreciate that this person makes the world that much more interesting.
And a heavy chain gold necklace.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, well, like we said yesterday, to each his own, to each their own. Let's take the gender out of it. So they're incredible designs. There's no arguing with that. They are really impressive designs. And it was Bei Yumin, the Chinese architect, who designed the Louvre entrance. That may be another reason why I feel kind of partial to it. The Gherkin, it just kind of jumps out of nowhere for me. But anyway, let's look at some other interesting glass structures around the world. So this is just our introduction. We're going to start looking at some other really unusual buildings that use a lot of glass. And from here, we went from the Louvre in France to London in England. We are now going to Spain. We're going to Madrid, Spain. So Selgas Cano's incredible office. In the woods near Madrid, Spain, architectural firm Selgas Cano created a one-of-a-kind office space that looks like a long tube. Now, when I read this over the first time, I tried to imagine what it looked like, and I was not very successful, but I just typed it into Google Images and saw it right away, and then it was clear.
That's exactly what I did, in fact, because it said it looks like a long tube, and I said, don't all skyscrapers look like a long tube? And then when I saw it, I said, oh, yeah, it's not a skyscraper. It's not a tower.
It's horizontal.
It's a long building. It looks like a hot dog.
Okay, yeah, that helps. I imagined it as on its side, but I imagined it as being really circular. And I can't imagine walking on the floor of a tube. So I just had trouble imagining
it.
Sci-fi
feeling, right?
Yeah.
But in fact, it feels like a sci-fi movie. Walking in a tube, it feels very sci-fi.
With
maybe
slippery
in an aquarium.
sides, it just somehow did not come up as something that made sense in my brain.
But it's beautiful. It's surrounded by beautiful nature.
Yes, it is. It's in the woods. When they say it's in the woods, they really mean it. And when you see it pictured, I think in this case, a picture says is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah,
That's
maybe 2,000 in this case, because you really do get a good visual sense of what it's like to be in this place.
And once you've seen the picture, then the text makes a lot more sense. So it is a long tube, but there are flat surfaces, and then that makes it walkable. So that already helps me imagine it better. The building's north side has a transparent wall that curves upward to form half of the ceiling. Now we've got half of a ceiling, and you're kind of left hanging here. You don't know what's going on. You really have to go on to the next sentence, so that's what we'll do. The other half of the roof and side of the building facing south is made from different material in a green color, offering some shade from the sun. Now, this is the part that will make more sense when you see the picture, because the roof curves and it is glass, so it is transparent. But then for the rest of the curve, you only go to the halfway mark of the curve. For the rest of the curve, it's green. It could be colored glass. It's not really clear what the material is, but at least you don't feel so exposed and it doesn't look so hot. There's a place where you can hide and get some shade inside the building.
I have 3 thoughts. Number one, the color scheme used in this building reminded me a lot of the color schemes from the 1970s, those very earthy tones.
Oh, okay.
They weren't as bright or as clean as the more modern color palettes are, which I thought was an interesting choice. It wasn't unattractive, but it did remind me of the way, think of like a plastic hospital chair from the 70s or 80s. It had that very kind of muddier color, right?
Yeah.
Number 2, it's because you have half a glass ceiling and you're in the woods, you're in the forest, that glass is going to get dirty. It must need constant maintenance. Mm-hmm. And then number 3, as a person that works in the MRT a lot, I often have trouble with a lot of glare on my computer screen, and I purposely have a screen that kind of reflects glare. So if there's that much light coming in, I wonder as a work office space if that design doesn't interfere. These are just thoughts. I don't actually have any evidence one way or the other, but it just made me think, like, if I'm working at a computer and because the design of my office is interfering, but that's not to say that this is because of the hot dog shape, because tall buildings have this problem too.
Yep.
Glare is glare is glare.
Right. That's right. So I think the interior designers have to design the offices very carefully so you don't have that sun just blazing into your eyes and reflecting off your computer so easily. And also, I'm thinking of the heat. Spain does get pretty hot, and in Europe, they normally do not have air conditioning anywhere, in much of Europe anyway. So yeah, I thought of some similar concerns. So let's continue. Half of the building is underground, with the bottom part made of brick. Now, this also made me feel a bit better because brick tends to be cool.
It also has a very nice texture to it. Everybody can think of like a good restaurant that has like an exposed brick wall. People will even tear down the plaster to see the brick wall in certain places. It just has a certain texture to it. It has a certain character. And if you're design-minded, I think brick very much still has its place. And you could even have colored brick that is just that much more. So a person with an eye for color may really personally find value in this. Although, if I'm not mistaken, this is actually completely covered. So it's moot.
Yeah, but
moot means it doesn't matter at all.
Well, it does matter because it's in the ground, and the ground will be cool, and then the brick is going to keep that coolness in the office. So I think that is really a good choice. But I agree with you about bricks because Taiwan has traditional red bricks, and I love the way they look.
I agree.
I don't like a lot of modern buildings covered with concrete, and then they put fake tiles over it.
The wallpaper that looks like brick. Oh.
Or no, it's just the ceramic tile that ends up looking like bathroom tile.
Yes, it looked like the bathroom like exploded on itself.
That's right. Or else it's actually, this is a bit better if it's ceramic tile that looks like brick, but it's still fake brick. I really love real brick. All right. So this offers good insulation, which means no air conditioning is needed. So that's right. So this will definitely keep the office cooler. The top half offers employees wonderful views because they basically have one long window to look out at nature, and that part is true. After you look at the pictures, they've got this area, they look up, they see trees, they see sunshine, they see birds. It is really, I think, quite a nice way to, something nice to have in an office that you can look straight outside.
I agree. In fact, one of my very favorite things to do, especially when I go back home where there's these big broadleaf trees, I will just look into a tree that's a little bit off in the distance, and I'll stare into it, and I just enter this place of peace. I can do it in Taipei, but there are kind of less of those bigger trees. But man, when I just look into a tree with some wind blowing, I just lose myself, and I can just do it forever.
There are many reasons why that relaxes us.
Absolutely.
Because when we're looking at our work, our focus is very, very small. But this broadens our focus, and that makes our whole body feel better. And I'm very lucky because I have a mountain right across from me and big windows in front of it. So when I look up from my computer, it's also green mountains.
Absolutely. There needs to be green space near my home.
Yep.
Let's continue to our next paragraph, and this is called the IT house. In contrast to the forest surroundings of Selgas Kano's office, the IT house is a largely glass structure built in the middle of a desert in California.
Did you look at the pictures of that one?
My thoughts were that it's attractive, especially in the evening with the nice yellow lights, but it is very open. And instantly
exposed.
I thought of it. Yes, in fact, I wrote the word exposed and privacy.
That's right. You're in the middle of the desert and you currently don't have neighbors. But what about if somebody builds right next to you? They see through from this side all the way to the other side, to the desert, which means even your bathrooms, your bedroom, everything is exposed.
That's
through
right.
windows.
I mean, listen, in your house, it's comfortable to walk around in your underpants or just your shorts.
Or even less. Yes.
I almost never wear a shirt in my house. My wife likes the temperature a little warmer. I like it a little cooler. The compromise is I'm in shorts and pretty much it. That's it. 99% of the year.
That's the way it is with most people who work at home.
They
just get used to not wearing pants.
That's right. And so an exposed house like this is a place you rent for a beautiful dinner party to have a wedding banquet at, but this place is just a little bit too...
But not for the honeymoon.
bring your curtains. I imagine they have blinds and stuff, but all that work, all this effort for a place that's a little bit less livable than you like to be.
Okay, I have to be honest that I know that it is really fashionable to build places like this, but I thought it was kind of a cliche myself. I thought it was kind of a cliche.
I can see this. I can see your point here. I don't know if I arrived there as a cliche, but I very much see the point where you're coming from.
Yeah, so I saw it as kind of a cliche, but the first thing was everything's transparent. Good thing you don't have neighbors. The third thing, we go back to heat. You're in the desert.
Right.
That will be boiling hot, blazing hot. How are you going to control the internal temperature?
Yeah, I suppose this is just one of those places that just cranks the AC.
That would be a terrible way to deal with it with so much of the sun coming in through the glass everywhere. So I don't know about this myself. Okay.
The unusual home was built by couple Linda Tallman and Alan Koch, who both work for the same architectural company, along with some help from their friends, which is a great Beatles song.
Exactly. That's right. Go look for it on YouTube. Now, Koch is a German word, and it means cook, the English cook. Koch, der Koch is the cook. Now, people who have this name, a lot of us in the U.S., a lot of us people who originally came from Europe, maybe around 40% of us have German ancestry.
Right.
Around 40% have German ancestry. I'm one of those. I'm half German, half Swedish. Okay, so they brought their names with them, but the pronunciation changes in English. And this one, nobody knows how to pronounce. So it could be the German Koch, but we don't have Koch in English, maybe Koch. But with that vowel makes it sound weird. And there are some very famous industrialists in the U.S. called the Koch Brothers, and they spell it that way, Koch. They pronounce it Koch. But there is a former mayor of New York called Koch.
That's actually, I debated over how to say this. I tried to find this guy's name and pin it down definitively, and I was thinking of New York Koch. That's what I was thinking too.
So it could be anything. You have to ask them. In a case like this, you just have to ask the person, or you listen to an interview with them on YouTube or something.
I like that this couple, these two architects, said, let's build a unique home. I do appreciate that value. I wonder how much compromise was built into the design, though, where what they wanted, or was it they had the singular design and let's bring it to fruition? It's an interesting place.
Some glass is fine, but the whole thing, I think they went overboard.
It's really exposed.
I think they went overboard. And especially in the desert, you really want some shade and shelter. Okay, so the couple is Linda Tallman, that looks kind of Finnish, and Alan Koch or Koch, whatever it is. And they were both architects. So they certainly had their dreams, their ideas of something that they wanted to make that was really special. And then they had some friends who were also creative types, so they worked on it together.
Let's continue. For power, the couple relies on solar panels on top of the home.
Now, that should be a no-brainer.
I think in the desert of California, yeah. And also the surrounding environment also isn't, they don't try to force a lawn. So many of these places in California out in the desert are forcing grass in this place that doesn't exist, and it costs a mountain of resources
to water
that
it.
Just aren't there to water it.
That's right.
Instead, they just keep the desert as the desert, which I think is a very nice touch.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to change our idea of what is beautiful and what is normal for a house and a lawn, so forth. Okay, the last header that we have here, the last place that we're going to introduce is called the Willis Tower glass platforms. Now, the building itself is called the Willis Tower.
What's that name again?
We're going to talk about that in a minute. But what is special about the Willis Tower, what is especially special about the Willis Tower, is the glass platforms on it. And I would say they're on the building. Now, when I first read this, I had no idea what building they were talking about. But when I looked at the picture, I said, isn't that the Sears Tower?
That's right. This is one of those weird situations where an iconic building gets a name change. And everybody just says, no, I'm not calling it that. We're keeping the old name. Because I knew the Willis Tower was the Sears Tower. But I would, if I'm talking about this building, I'm calling it the Sears Tower.
Right.
This is what this building is known as.
Right.
They're really fighting against the current here.
Okay, and I'm from Minnesota. And Chris is from New York State, but the people in Chicago call it the Sears Tower.
Everybody calls it the Sears Tower. And you even have examples of this in Taiwan where something undergoes a name change and you're like, I still call it this thing. it's really hard to accept some of these name changes. I can rattle off several examples in my own personal life of this happening, but to me, this is probably the most famous example of an iconic building changing the name, and everyone's like, nah.
I have to share one just to put myself on a time continuum. I am totally not used to 和平公园 or 228. I call it 新公园. And then Chris had never even heard of it.
I had never even heard of that name.
That's from the 70s, and that's when I first came to Taiwan as a student. And to me, it will always be 新公园. I don't care what you call it. All right, so we're going to read about the Willis Tower, which is really the Sears Tower. All right. The Willis Tower in Chicago, Illinois, known as the Sears Tower until 2009, is the 23rd tallest building in the world, and it contains a lot of windows.
So, in fact, it's the 23rd tallest building in the world, but it's one of the very tallest in North America. In fact, it's the tallest building in North America if you don't count the other buildings because their antennas are higher. And I feel that's so unfair. It's just a metal rod. That's not the building.
That's right. So it's the third tallest building in North America, 23rd in the world. And they've got these big antennas poking out at the top. So if they count them in, that makes it extra tall. And Chris is saying that's cheating.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so we're now talking about the Sears Tower. You call it what you want. I'm calling it the Sears Tower. And it has a lot of windows, but there's something really special about this building. But the most remarkable parts of the building are the 4 glass platforms that hang more than 400 meters up in the air outside the structure.
Oh, my gosh. This is a nightmare for me. I don't like heights, and the idea of standing on a glass floor.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Actually, I kind of had that fear when I went to the Grand Canyon. They have now built a glass bridge across it. It's not for everybody. If you're afraid of heights, I would not recommend it. So you really have to go to Google Images. It's just a glass box that can fit a person sticking out the side of a glass building. And when you look down, you're very high. And you're looking out over Chicago, which is a very big city.
I would be a very bad Spider-Man.
Yeah, a lot of people, your heart will be in your mouth. Okay, if you don't mind heights, then maybe. But it definitely is special.
It is special. I give it that.
It's very special. People who enter the glass boxes can get a fantastic view of America's third largest city.
And that is really special because Chicago is beautiful. Chicago is not right on the ocean like New York is.
They've got Lake Michigan.
That's right. And so you get water views, but you get a big lake. And Chicago's cool, man. If you get a chance to go, don't miss it. Go to Chicago. It's a cool city. A lot of good food, too.
But wear a hat. It's very windy. Okay. All right. Let's do our questions. Number 1, what concern about glass buildings is mentioned in the Day 1 article?
A, architects think they are dangerous.
No. B, they are expensive to build in general. No, they should be a little cheaper.
C, they require more energy than other types of buildings. Yes, yes.
And that means that they're more expensive because of the energy that you have to pay for, but that's after you build the building. So C is the correct answer. Let's go on to number 2. Which of the following advantages to using glass is mentioned in the passage?
A, it is good for cities with hot summers and cold winters.
Doesn't say that because it's not. B, it is less expensive to use than some other materials. And that is true. Glass is less expensive than steel or a number of other building materials. Okay, let's go on to number 3. According to the passage, which of the following is true?
A, the home in the desert was built by a Spanish company.
No, not true.
B, the Willis Tower is the 23rd largest building in America. No,
Not
it's the
true.
3rd tallest.
C, the Selgas Cano's office is made completely of glass. Also not true.
And D, the couple who constructed the house in California are co-workers. And yeah, that's the correct
That's
answer
true.
because it's
Letter
the last one
D.
that's correct.
All right. Number 4, our last question. During their honeymoon overseas, Terry and Tina saw a distinctive structure. It is uniquely shaped and looks like a cucumber. Which of the following structures did they probably come across?
A, the IT house.
No. B, the Gherkin.
There you go.
They were in London. That was it. And we are finished for today. Tune in next time. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.